Today, I'll be going over 3 PC parts lists for 2019. Starting off with the cheapest of the three, we have a Ryzen 3 based system, starting with the CPU. I chose the Ryzen 3 2200G. This is in my personal system, and for only $100 or less, I can say it's a great deal. You get 4 cores with sadly no SMT, but what the chip lacks in cores makes up for in graphics. This is an APU, which is a CPU with a GPU on the chip. And usually, AMD APUs have really decent graphics solutions in comparison to Team Blue. The 2200G's Vega 8 GPU performs just as good as maybe a GTX 560. Random Gaming in HD did a video on the Vega 8 versus a GTX 550, and the performance was about the same, maybe worse in some tiles on the 550, so my best guess is that it will perform similarly to a GTX 560. The chip runs at 3.5 GHz base and boosts up to 3.7 GHz. The 2200G is also overclockable. Personally, I've gotten it up to 3.9 GHz, so if you have a B350, 450, or higher motherboard, then you can get a little more out of this chip. $100 for a decent GPU and 4 cores is a solid choice if you plan on gaming or doing some content creation. Next is a motherboard, and I'll give you 2 options. For $74.60 on Amazon, you can get an MSI B450 board. It supports the 2nd gen Ryzen chips out of the box, so you don't need to do anything. But if you have an older 1st gen AM4 chip, then you can save some cash and get a cheaper B350 board and use that 1st gen chip to flash the BIOS to support the 2200G or any higher CPU. Moving on to the RAM, I found a great deal on this value RAM from G-Skill. As the name suggests, the RAM has good value. It has 2666 speed, and this is an 8GB stick, but the only compromise here is that there's no heat spreader. But for only $44, this really is a great deal. The only thing that would stop me from buying it is the fact that this is a single channel kit. To better explain, Ryzen performs better in dual channel, which means there are 2 sticks rather than just 1. My Ryzen system motherboard, the Prime, has 4 DIMM slots. I populated 2 of the 4 slots with 2 4GB sticks, equaling up to 8GB. So depending on what motherboard you choose, whether it has 2 or 4 DIMM slots, I'd recommend looking for a memory kit that has 8GB total capacity, and it's split between 2 4GB sticks. Now onto the power supply. Now, during the recording of this video, the power supply wasn't on sale, but usually you can pick up the EVGA 450BT for only $20. With that, you get all black cables and an 80+ bronze certification. This is another part that I've been using in my system for the past year, and I have to say, it's pretty solid if you can find it on sale. Next up is the case. On budget builds, usually you don't expect to get a great looking case with tons of features, but for $20, the Rosewell FBM X1 offers an all black interior, USB 3, and even a side panel window. For what it's worth, it's better than my original case, and in some aspects, better than my current case. Next is storage. I just picked a cheap 500GB Toshiba drive, but any drive that is 7200 RPM or greater, SATA 3, is from a reputable brand like WD, Seagate, Toshiba, and Hitachi, and is in new condition for a price and capacity that fits your needs, is always an okay option. If you can get a 120GB or higher SSD, then please get it as your boot drive. I thought SSDs are just bonus, but trust me, your PC will feel just so much faster with one. And for only $20 at times, it would be wrong not to have one. So, if you can get an SSD, then get it. If you can't afford it, then a SATA 3 7200 RPM drive is okay. So, this whole build comes down to just under $280, not including tax or shipping. But if you get an SSD and don't find the power supply on sale, then expect maybe closer to $300. For media consumption, gaming, and even video editing, this is a great build for the money. If you have $500 for a budget, then what I would recommend doing is swapping the Ryzen 3 2200G 4-core APU to Ryzen 5 2600 6-core CPU. Now, for around $150 to $170, a hyper-threaded 6-core CPU that comes with a good cooler and is overclockable is a great choice for gaming, and have your workstation loads like 3D modeling and video editing. But we lose that Vega 8 graphics solution. That's where the higher budget comes in handy. During the recording of this video, you can pick up a 4GB RX 570 or Newegg with 2 free games for only $140. The RX 570 is a great choice because it's cheap and will probably outperform cards like a 1050 Ti and possibly a 1060. If you miss out on this baller deal and are okay with buying used, eBay is a goldmine for getting RX 400 or 500 series cards. If you can find an RX 470, 480, 570, or 580 for around $140 or less, I'd go for it. This system uses just about all the same parts as the 2200G system, but instead has an upgraded CPU and GPU. For $500, you can't go wrong. Now into the parts list that I'll let you decide on. I'd recommend swapping that single stick of RAM for a dual channel kit, or buying another altogether. Other than that, maybe upgrade the CPU to a Ryzen 7 2700 or 2700X, maybe go Team Green and get a GTX 1070 or 1070 Ti, and get an SSD with maybe a bigger hard drive. I knew this higher budget system, I haven't really made a list, but here's what I'll tell you. If you don't game much and make videos or 3D model, leave the GPU alone and upgrade the RAM with another 8GB stick or value RAM, a bigger hard drive with an SSD, and get the Ryzen 7 2700 or X. If you just play games, leave the CPU alone, and with whatever crazy budget you may have, say $1,000 or $900, and you use that $500 build as the base, buy the most powerful card you possibly can, minding the total power consumption. Well guys, those are all the lists. If you're looking to build one of these and don't have a clue how to build a PC, then I'll be doing a build guide in a future video. Some of you might be wondering why I didn't go with an Intel based build, and the only sole reason for that is that Ryzen has better value. If you're on a budget and mainly do content creation or other workstation workloads, stick with Ryzen. If you only game and want the best gaming performance possible, then swap the B450 board for what even is it now, a B360, Z390 board. I haven't been paying much attention to Intel since Kaby Lake. And get an 8th gen chip that fits your budget, like maybe an 8600K or non-K if you don't plan on overclocking, or a higher tier i7, with maybe a 1070 or one of the new RTX cards. AMD is still a solid choice for gaming, but whether you like it or not, Intel will outperform its Ryzen competitor, especially now, with the 8th gen Intel chips actually differ significantly in performance compared to its previous gen predecessors. Anyways guys, if you haven't already, check out my giveaway. It's still open. Instructions to enter are of course in that video. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button. If you didn't, then I'm not sure why you showed up. Anyways, thanks for watching and I'll see you later.